Energy codes play a vital role in many areas that are important to our local economies, the well-being of our communities, and the conservation of valuable resources. Buildings utilize 40% of energy in the United States. Energy codes are designed to help us save energy and keep those savings in our local economies. They also improve the comfort and durability of our buildings and the health and safety of the building's occupants. In addition, the federal government has mandated that Mississippi reach 90% compliance with target energy codes by 2017 as part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Thank you for helping ensure that Mississippi's buildings comply with building energy codes. When inspecting residential construction, the field guide can be used as a checklist to make sure you have properly covered the required items for compliance with the energy code. To use the field guide properly, you must understand how to determine where the building thermal envelope is located for a given home. The building thermal envelope represents the boundary that separates conditioned space from unconditioned space. It should consist of a thermal barrier like insulation and a pressure barrier like drywall, OSB, or plywood that are both in continuous contact. In a home, the building thermal envelope typically includes the exterior walls, windows, doors, ceiling, attic knee walls, and floors. As we discuss the requirements of the Energy Code, we want to keep in mind that any insulation, window, and air sealing requirements in the Energy Code only pertain to the portions of the building that make up the actual building thermal envelope. For example, an exterior wall or a wall separating a conditioned room from the garage would require insulation and air sealing. However, walls that separate the garage from the exterior or a wall that separates interior rooms from one another do not need to meet Energy Code since they are not part of the building thermal envelope. When inspecting a home for Energy Code compliance, you must conduct several inspections in a home. The field guide and this video will walk you through many of the items in the Energy Code in the order of the inspections that must be performed. The first inspection is a pre-insulation or framing inspection. At this inspection, check for the mandatory air sealing requirements in the code. At the rough-in inspection, ensure that air sealing has been performed underneath and behind tubs by installing an air barrier behind the tub and sealing holes underneath tubs. Sealing wire penetrations in the top plate is another mandatory requirement in the Energy Code. You should make sure all chases are capped and sealed. Chases can serve as very large holes in the building thermal envelope. Finally, joists should be blocked between conditioned and unconditioned spaces in garages. This is important not only to save energy in a home, but to make sure pollutants like carbon monoxide do not get into the home. At framing, you can also inspect for the window requirements in the Energy Code. It is important to verify that fenestration, windows, and doors meet the requirements of the Energy Code, such as air leakage, U-factor, and solar heat gain coefficient, or SHGC. Window and door U-factor specifies how much insulation the fenestration provides. The lower the U-factor means the door or window is a better insulator. SHGC defines how much heat incident on the window gets into the home. Having a low SHGC for windows is critical in the Southeast to reduce the amount of radiant energy gained by the home during the summer. Because of the performance specifications for U-factor and SHGC, a double-pane low E window is effectively required in Mississippi by the National Model Energy Code. When using the prescriptive path, every home gets a 15-square-foot exemption for windows. A builder could use this exemption to install glass blocks or decorative transom windows. In order for windows in the state to meet Energy Code requirements, they must have an NFRC label. Otherwise, the window is assigned code default values for U-factor and SHGC, neither of which would pass code. A second building inspection occurs once insulation is installed in the building. Because even small gaps in insulation can reduce effectiveness by more than 25%, the Energy Code stipulates that the wall insulation must be installed according to manufacturer's instructions. Therefore, inspect walls to make sure that batts are cut to fit and that they are split to fit around electrical wires and cables. Also, make sure the batts are not compressed. The Energy Code states that underfloor insulation must be installed so it maintains continuous contact with the underside of the subfloor decking. Insulation that does not touch the subfloor decking does very little to prevent heat transfer from the home. When installing underfloor insulation, utilize wire staves or tiger teeth to support the insulation. An attic knee wall is any vertical wall that has conditioned space on one side and unconditioned attic space on the other. Insulating the attic knee wall is especially important as there is a large temperature difference across the knee wall, particularly in the summer. In Mississippi, you insulate attic knee walls to R13. For specific information on how to insulate the attic knee wall, refer to the Mississippi Field Guide. You can inspect for the remaining items in the field guide at the third and final inspection. Installing proper ceiling insulation is another important criteria in the Energy Code. In the prescriptive Mississippi Energy Code, R30 is required throughout the entire attic. If loose fill insulation is used, one attic ruler must be provided every 300 square feet to confirm consistent depth. If a builder uses less ceiling insulation, for example if they sprayed foam along the roof line at R19, then ResCheck software can be used to perform a simple trade-off within the envelope. These are just a few of the insulation requirements in the code. See the Mississippi Residential Field Guide for more information. At the third and final inspection, you can also make sure that the remaining mandatory air sealing requirements are met. The code requires that builders use airtight IC-rated light fixtures whenever the fixture is located in an insulated ceiling. Unlike standard recessed lighting fixtures, these airtight fixtures do not create holes in the building thermal envelope. The Mississippi Energy Code also requires an air barrier between the attic side of the knee wall and conditioned space. You should inspect for blocking between the floor joists underneath the attic knee wall. Air sealing the access to the attic is another mandatory requirement in the Energy Code. You should also check to make sure the insulation requirements are met. R13 is required for attic knee wall doors, and R30 is required for pull-down stairs and scuttle holes or hatches. Sealing penetrations from duct boots and electrical boxes, as well as light fixtures and other penetrations, is another key requirement in the Energy Code. For illustrations of these air sealing measures, please see the Mississippi Field Guide. The code requires that all ducts be sealed with mastic or silver UL 181 tape. It is best practice to use mastic, as tape will fail over time. If any ducts or air handlers are located outside of the building thermal envelope, then the code requires that the system be tested. Total duct leakage at rough-in must be less than or equal to 6% when the air handler is installed. If the air handler is not installed, total duct leakage at rough-in must be less than or equal to 4%. Total duct leakage at final must be less than or equal to 12%. Total leakage to outside at final must be less than or equal to 8%. These percentages are based on the CFM 25 of duct leakage divided by the floor area served by that duct system. Another provision in the Energy Code is the option to test the building thermal envelope with a blower door. Standard practice is to depressurize the home to -50 pascals and then measure the CFM 50. The CFM 50 is used to calculate the ACH 50. The Energy Code requires that a home test out less than 7 ACH 50. If a blower door test is not conducted on a home, one must conduct a detailed air barrier and insulation inspection of the home. For example, one must verify that corners and headers are insulated in this inspection. For detailed inspection requirements, see Table 402.4.2 of the Energy Code. Another important requirement of the Energy Code is the requirement for an Energy Code compliance certificate, which should be located on the electrical panel box and include the major insulation characteristics of a home. The Energy Code also requires that manual J-load calculations be performed to properly size the mechanical systems in the home. The Energy Code also requires that homes have efficient lighting. At least half of all the bulbs in the permanent fixtures in the home must be efficient. This video details the main requirements in the Energy Code, but not all. For more details, visit Southface's website to download the Mississippi Field Guide, watch a video on how to conduct a blower door and duct blaster test, or attend a training.